Jujutsu Kaisen is really hitting hard right now. It's ranked second on the top selling manga list just behind One Piece, and anime is also on the top right now. We are just hitting Shibuya incident arc, and let me tell you, it's insane. MAPPA has really upped the animation. Yuji vs Chojo was one of the best animated action sequences in recent anime. Those hand-to-hand combat mixed with Jujutsu was just beautiful. And in manga, things are pretty insane too. The battle between Gojo and Sukuna was fire. However, I'm here to talk about Sukuna vs Kashimo, as it was the battle of beasts. It was just 2 chapters, but looking at Sukuna, that might have been good enough time for Kashimo to prove he is strong. The fight was more of us audience discovering more about why Sukuna is called the King of Curses. In last chapter 236, we had Gojo's illegitimate death, as Sukuna can now cut through world, the existence itself, and with the winner of the battle of the strongest declared, Kashimo rushes to the battlefield to fight against Sukuna, the King of Curses. Chapter 237 opens up with Kashimo and Uraume entering the battlefield. However, another player also enters the battlefield. It's none other than our senpai Kinji Hakari. Hakari challenges Uraume. He says he made a promise, so you will stop Uraume, and opens his domain, and Uraume activates her ice formation against him. Ice formation is pretty dangerous technique, as we have seen it in action at Shibuya and also during calling games. It can freeze almost anything instantly, and she almost took down whole Jujutsu High and Kyoto High students at same time. If it wasn't for Yuki to come and save them, they could have died, as Yuji himself states that in Shibuya. Even though dude is physically gifted, he was helpless against it. So it's pretty interesting to see how the battle between our top contender Hakari and Uraume will go. But even though Hakari's domain captured Uraume in it, the boulder of ice continues to fall, it suddenly evaporates, and Kashimo notices that all that was to deliver something to Sukuna. That is the cursed weapon Yoruzu constructed before her death through a binding vow, the cursed tool Kamutoke. It's just like how Mai left sword for Maki through the binding vow of death. Weapon looks just like Bajra from mythology. Sukuna launches an electric attack on Kashimo with his cursed weapon and says good old times. So yeah, it's definitely inspired from Buddhism or Hinduism. They both contain these weapons that can fire electric attacks in their mythology. And referencing them, Sukuna's cursed tool is also lightning based weapon. But coincidentally, Kashimo's cursed energy has made him resistant to electricity. As we all know, since Kashimo's cursed energy has electric nature, means his body is always electrified, so he can neutralize any electric based attacks. Kashimo then questions Sukuna, did you become the strongest or were you born as the strongest? Well, Gekisio loves power and God gift side of the story. Just like Geto questioning Gojo about power and how it affects people, well, we are seeing it all over again. Sukuna replies he doesn't know because he was born accursed, an unwanted child. Kashimo asks, how did Sukuna connect with others, with knowing nothing of weakness? How can he love those beneath him? That's something Kashimo never understood. He only saw them as dirt beneath his feet. He asks Sukuna to teach him, is strength solitude or is endless source for greater power simply a curse the strong must bear alone? Geke is again trying to push the strength and solitude theme of JJK further, as Kashimo have bear this burden of being strongest 400 years ago. So he's getting little philosophical about it with Sukuna, because Sukuna was the strongest in Heian era and he is still the strongest till now. So he wants to learn about life of strong and power of their actions, whether his life is solitude or punishing other is his fate, or being born strong is the punishment that life imposes on strong. Sukuna tells Kashimo greedy and calls out Kashimo to fight him. Kashimo smiles and battle begins. Kashimo tries to land a hit on Sukuna using his staff, but Sukuna blocks it with his cursed tool. So Sukuna can also use Kamutoke as shield. Even in mythology, Vajra was considered a symbol of indestructible object. So yeah, this cursed tool is pretty handy for Sukuna, as it can be used for both offense and defense. After this, Kashimo moves back and activates his curse technique Mythic Beast Amber. It's pretty good, especially the cannon mask, I guess, in his mouth. It's really nice. Once he lands a punch on Sukuna's face, Kashimo fires a breath type attack at Sukuna. Author states Kashimo's curse technique transforms his body, rendering any phenomena that can be created by electricity. So basically, his city remakes his whole body able to blast any kind of attacks which Kashimo can create from his curse energy. Then in heat of battlefield, Kashimo manages to land another hit on Sukuna. His CT enhances his agility by activating his brain's electrical signals. It optimizes and tones sound wave to match the natural frequencies of the material and vaporizes irradiated objects using electromagnetic waves. In simple terms, the wave he blasts evaporates everything which gets touched. But Kashimo surpasses human limit to make this reality. So once his CT ends, his body will crumble. This means once his technique is over, he will be of no use. So that explains the one-time use of his technique. It's like greater the power, greater the consequences, as his CT totally remodels the body and its function. It's like achieving a greater height by living as a human and becoming more like us for a single time. It's like a 8 gate of might guy, a power that is unbelievable and unfortunate for the user. Back to the fight, as Kashimo fires an electric attack at Sukuna, the narrator states, apart from reverse curse techniques, Sukuna has a method of restoring his OG body, but only single time, and he had been intentionally suspending this whole time, and it's resuming his transformation through means of incarnation. And chapter ends with OG Sukuna reincarnating in modern era, the 4 arms, corpse-like body, and a mouth on his stomach. This was the moment of shout out for Sukuna's fans, as we are seeing OG Ryomen Sukuna in the battlefield. Chapter 238 begins with Kashimo analyzing Sukuna with his X-ray enhanced eyes, and narrator states, Kashimo came to single conclusion, utterly immaculate. He could only see a perfection. Narrator explains, even while making hand signs, 2 hands are free and he is able to chant incantations with no strains on his heart or lungs. And as a sorcerer, there is no greater advantage than having twice the number of arms and mouth. Although Sukuna's body takes this diplastic form, not a single one of his bodily functions are hindered. So this means Sukuna is strongest in its cursed form. During Gojo vs Sukuna, we learn the importance of chants and hand signs. It can increase the output of one's technique. So Sukuna being able to do hand signs while 2 hands are open and non-stop incantations means he is unbelievably good with execution of his technique. So Sukuna can use Jujutsu in its optimum level at this form, since he is abiding by the rules and not skipping any prerequisite. Here narrator states Sukuna annihilated the elite celestial squad 5 boat generals who served under Fujiwara Hokke branch and repelled the forces of Abe clan's Disshin squad, including Angel and remnants of Sugawara clan, while wielding the pair of curse tools Kamutoke and Hiten. So yeah, this is how Angel and Sukuna know each other. Looks like they had a fight, and I don't think it went well for Angel's team. So in short, this is bad blood trying to settle his score. Narrator also mentioned about Fujiwara and Sugawara clan. Well, Gojo and Yuta are descendant of Sugawara clan, and as for Fujiwara, we don't have much information about them. We had brief description about it in Calling Game from Uro, but apart from that, we don't really know much about them. Maybe we'll learn about them later on the manga. By looking at Sukuna in this form, Kashimo is enchanted and calls Sukuna beautiful and proceeds to attack. But Sukuna grabs hold of Kashimo and punches him away. This shows that Sukuna's hand-to-hand combat also enhances with this form, as he starts to handle Kashimo like it's nothing. Then Kashimo fires another blast attack at Sukuna, but instead of dodging, Sukuna begins enchanting for an attack, while warning Kashimo to dodge it. Sukuna then launches a huge dismantle slash. Kashimo realizes that's the attack which ended Gojo Satoru. The attack is insane as it cuts through the world itself. We thought it was impossible to dodge it, but Kashimo was able to, as he has modified body, and there is also a fact that Sukuna warned him. Then Sukuna says, there was this fool who preached to me about love. According to her, I knew nothing about it, and because I live peerless in a world of my own, I understand what she meant, but it's quite annoying to hear someone prattle on about it. He continues by saying, she chose the wrong person. You and Gojo would have made much better company for her. So this is obviously Sukuna talking about Yoroju and love she wanted to teach to Sukuna. But Sukuna is saying, unlike Kashimo and Gojo, Sukuna doesn't feel isolated or alone. He doesn't feel the solitude of being strongest. Moving on, Sukuna continues to overpower Kashimo in hand-to-hand combat. Sukuna then sends a net of dismantle slashes upon Kashimo. So yeah, this ends the chapter of Kashimo. Even surviving one wall-cutting slash was near impossible, but it was a net of them. Well, then he starts to give Kashimo Jogo treatment. Sukuna says, I'm sure many warriors have given a heart and soul challenging you. They weren't doing so to curse you, they simply wanted to be recognized. You met their eyes in response and slaughtered them. So Sukuna is here talking about honoring the death of strong foes they killed, just like how he praised Jogo and Gojo after killing them. Neither Jogo nor Gojo cursed Sukuna, they simply wanted to validate who they thought themselves to be, and the action Sukuna takes is the love that he responds with. They are loved because they are strong and they simply respond to that love in kind. But even after this, Kashimo laments solitude. That's why Sukuna calls Kashimo greedy. Kashimo asks, if this is enough for you, why mines your soul in cursed object and watch all those years go by? To which Sukuna responds, let me assure you, love is worthless. The thought of needing someone else to fulfill me never crossed my mind. If I want to eat, I eat. If I see an eyesore, I kill it. If it entertains me, I throw it a bone. I live according to my own stature. If that can't be measured or understand, that's not my problem. Basically, Sukuna is just a selfish guy seeking entertainment, which is the core value of JJK. It looks like it's the mindset of strongest to become a selfish. Even Gojo just did Jujutsu for entertainment. He didn't care about keeping sorcery going or protecting people. He was in game because he got kicked out of it. And it's the same for Sukuna, just in more fucked up manner. He just wants to play with humans until he dies. Sukuna says the flavor of humans are diverse as they are fleeting. The perfect thing to slurp up to pass time. So dude has no remorse for his action. He is entertained and that's enough for him. Well, this chapter ends with Hakari's domain breaking and we see Hakari, Uraume, Yuji and Higuromo ready to take on Sukuna. So yeah, they are ganging up on Sukuna and it seems Yuji got a power up judging by his hands. This might actually be a good fight as Higuromo and Hakari are very good at domain battle and Yuji is there for hand-to-hand combat. They are surely bringing Sukuna to court. Well, there is also Yuta and Maki, so it sure is a possibility. Let's wait and see. Well, what are your opinion on it? Let me know it in the comment section. I'm NJ and see you soon.